I'm excited to welcome Coach Joe Keller and Luke Whitlock, just coming fresh off of the Olympics in Paris. They both have a pretty incredible story. They're training together in the lead up to the Olympic trials and the Olympics. Luke headed to Florida this fall, going to be a Gator, which is going to be amazing. You guys won't want to miss this. Welcome, where we aim to highlight inspiring people doing amazing things in the Swim Strong family and in the greater swim community. Before we jump into their stories, we have to do our rapid fire questions. Fellas, are you ready?
We're ready.
All right, let's do it. We'll start with Luke and we'll go to Joe. First question, favorite movie of all time?
Grown Ups. None. I don't really watch movies.
None. Okay. All right. Favorite fast food restaurant if you had to pick one?
Cane's. Chick-fil-A.
Oh, Cane's a pulled chicken. Nice. If you were not a swimmer, Luke, and if you were not a coach, Joe, what athlete would you do, Luke? And Joe, what career path would you be doing?
Like another sport or just,
yeah, another sport.
Probably basketball. And I would be a teacher because that was part of my past life pre-full-time coach.
Okay. Next question. Favorite swim venue you've ever been to in your life?
Probably the trials pool. Lucas Oil. I got to go ditto on
that one. Yeah. I love it. Favorite cartoon character?
SpongeBob.
Yes.
Oh, Smurfs.
Oh, there you go. I love it.
You even know what that is?
I do. I don't know if Luke does. Luke, you know Smurfs, right?
Yeah.
There you go. If you could meet any celebrity that you haven't met, who would it be?
Kevin Hart. Oh, wow. That's a tough one. Let's see. The timer's running. I don't know. It doesn't come to mind. I can't think of anyone.
All right. Well, if you think of one later, you can just put it in, insert it randomly into the show.
Right. I'll put it
All
in.
right. Last question. This one's going to be, I'm interested to hear who you guys say compared to each other. You are stuck on a deserted island. You get to pick two people from Fast that you get to have to survive, give you the best chance of survival. Not who would you most want to be there with, who gives you the best chance of survival. You get to pick two people from your organization, coaching staff or athlete.
I'd pick him as one. And then, I don't know. Maybe Johnny Hines.
All right.
Okay, I'd pick Avery Stein, and I'd take Steve Sanchez. That guy can fix about anything. He's a good one.
All right, there you go. You guys, Fishers people, you heard it. If you have to survive, those are your outdoorsy / can survival method. So guys, you did awesome with the rapid fire questions. Thanks for answering those. And thanks for being on the show today. I'm really excited to get to dive into your stories. As we jump in, I just want everybody to have a little bit of background just so they know where you're coming from. I think it's important before we jump to obviously you guys just came back from the Olympics and had an amazing experience, but just so they get to know a little bit of your stories, just a quick highlight of how you started swimming, Luke, how long you've been swimming for, and just kind of what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, I started swimming when I was 10, so I think kind of late compared to most people. But yeah, I swam in Noblesville where I live for 5 years, and so then 3 years ago I moved over here to Fishers, and yeah, I just think there wasn't anything like in particular that like why I started swimming. My parents kind of just like thought that I would be good at it and just had me do it because I was playing basketball up until that point, and I'm not very big, so basketball wasn't going to work out, but swimming did, so it's good.
Can you talk about the point where you personally fell in love with the sport and it became kind of yours, or you're like, oh, I actually really love this?
Yeah, I started swimming in like April of 2016, and so I did like that summer season, and I wasn't sure like if I liked it or wanted to keep going, but that was the Olympic year, and so watching the Olympics that summer, I think after that, then I was like, okay, now I really like this. I want to keep doing it. And then like a year or 6 months later, then I quit basketball, and then I've only done swimming since then. So
very cool. Thanks for sharing that background. And Coach Joe, how about yourself in terms of coaching? You mentioned too in the past teaching, but what was it that got you into full-time coaching? Kind of just a little bit of background on your story and career path.
Yeah, I think mentors. As I went through high school and made the decision that I wanted to, swim in college, and then starting to think about what the career path would be, teaching was something that connected with me because of teaching swim lessons and working with kids of kind of all ages. And so I actually went to Ball State University, and of course it used to be a teacher's college. And so teaching was kind of where I was headed. And as I went through college, I decided that, potentially being a PE teacher, lent itself to being able to do some coaching. And so that's what I intended to do. And that's how I started. Back in 1991 was my first teaching and coaching job. And over the years, why I definitely have a passion for teaching, just because of youth and kids in general. But my true passion came through with coaching, just because of I think the passion that athletes bring to that setting versus maybe what the general student population brings to a classroom. And so that was inspiring to me as well. So that's why then full-time coaching became possible, 26 years into my career.
Awesome. And let's talk a little bit about when your journeys then connected a handful of years ago. So was it 4 years ago? Is that correct?
3
years ago? Cool. Mm-hmm. And in those 3 years, obviously there's been some crazy things that you guys have done. And I'm curious of first impressions. I always like hearing these stories. So when you guys were considering this, Coach Joe, let me start with you. What was your first impression of Luke when he was coming into the team?
So Luke's mom had reached out to me a year prior when they were kind of thinking about making a switch. And through our discussion, then decided that, maybe it wasn't the right time for him or, them to do that. And so then she reached out a year later. And then at that point in time, we set up a meeting. And so we actually met here in the office space. And so my first impression of Luke was that, typically when you're working with a freshman in high school, a lot of times those conversations are driven by a parent. In this case, it was driven by Luke. And, it didn't take me but probably about 15 minutes into that conversation to know that he was really goal driven, had a great mind for the sport, kind of knew what he wanted. And those were the first impressions. I was super impressed, and I had seen him swim before. And at that moment, with the things that he was talking about, coupled with what I had seen from, his just in general stroke mechanical things, I was like, this kid could be really good. And I walked out of that meeting and sharing that with some of the staff that, if he came here, I felt he would have the potential to be one of the best kids that we've ever had in the program. So
you saw that you felt that from the start.
Yeah. There's just, some people have goals, right? Some people actually live it, right? And the things that he was sharing, it was just a different type of drive, a different type of passion, and really like a connected understanding at a different level, for a 15-year-old male athlete. So, it was pretty unique, very unique.
And Luke, from your perspective, what was that like? First impression of Coach Joe, Fisher's the team. What was kind of drawing you in, and any memories you have of that?
Yeah, I think just like I could see like the team had some good distance swimmers, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I want to try it out after my summer season in 2021. So yeah, I like kind of just chilled for a week, and then I talked to my mom about it, and then I was like, all right, so I'll have a meeting. And then after the meeting, because I mean, I said I was going to try it, but after the meeting, I was pretty certain that I wanted to make the switch. And then I don't remember how long after I like did my first practice, and then immediately after the first practice, I knew like that I was going to make the switch. It's just a good environment to train in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just fun. Like that year, like I was able to chase Kyle Ponsler. And so being able, like, that was really motivating for me. And yeah, I think first impressions were good. Like I knew that it would work out, and I just, yeah.
That's cool. And tell me about your mindset, Luke, because Coach Joe just mentioned this, like just that you had a different mindset. He saw something in you that, okay, this kid's different. Doesn't think the same way as most 15-year-old guys do, and has different goals that you're actually walking out. Tell me a little bit about the mindset you had, like when you were kind of in that transition phase. Like, what did you want? What were you trying to accomplish? Obviously, you were wanting to be a great distance swimmer, it sounds like you had just said. But what was kind of your mindset going into that? How far did you think realistically like you could go in your high school career?
Yeah. I always have been like really goal driven and really competitive. So I think I just wasn't happy. Like I wanted to be further than I was, I guess. Like I'd still always like improved, but I just wanted to improve faster, I guess. And so that was when I made the switch. And I didn't think that I would like be this far by the end of high school. I didn't really think how far. I mean, like I know like right away, like when I switched, like we set a goal of like getting my first winter junior cut. And so I got that at my first meet in October. So I don't really think like, obviously like every swimmer wants to make the Olympics. And I think that's like a goal. I kind of just set my goals like season by season and just, so I wasn't really thinking long-term, as I guess. I kind of like thinking in short term and just trusting that like if I'm improving in those like little steps each season, or like in like multiple parts in each season, that it'll lead to me eventually like being where I like think that I wanted to be when I was younger. So like at the Olympics. But I think that's just easy for me to set little goals and just keep improving. And I think at times I need to set higher goals because then I reach them and they're just like short-term goals. But yeah, I don't really try to think about long-term. I kind of just try to think about like what's happening in the moment. So
taking care of business right now, what you have in front of you. Tell everybody what was like your progression. So you talk about coming in at 15 years old. I mean, and you didn't even have a winter junior cut, right? So you went from not having a winter junior cut in high school to being a United States Olympian, and not just an Olympian, but almost running down Bobby Fink, the world record holder in the mile now at the United States Olympic trials. One, like, what was your progression from year to year? So you went from winter juniors to what the next year to what? Like, talk just a little bit about that step by step each year. What did you achieve?
Yeah, so I came in, I was close to winter juniors, but I didn't have it yet. So I got that at my first meet. And then I got my first summer junior cut in March of the next year. So in March of 2022.
Okay.
And then I got my first trials cut in July of 2022. So as summer juniors that summer. And then, yeah, I guess after that, there's no like cuts, but I still kept improving over the next year, I think. So my mile, I didn't improve as much as I wanted to in my mile last summer from like the year before. I still dropped 16 seconds, but I wanted to drop more. And so, yeah, I changed some things just with training, like we talked about, just training more, doing more yardage and just harder practices. And so then I dropped 30 seconds in my mile in the past year. So that was good. It's still a little off what I wanted to go at the trials in the mile, but 30 seconds is still good. So.
yeah, that's all right. That's awesome to hear that progression. I mean, it was pretty meteoric rise in the span of a few years, and I think what's interesting about that to me, obviously the success you've had and what you did in that time, I want to know more about, and we'll dig into. But you're telling me you weren't setting national age group records when you were 13, 14 and 11, 12, and you weren't like some freak of nature that everybody knew was always going to be this Olympic talent. So I just want everybody out there to hear that and realize, like, you don't need to be the best 10 and under, 11, 12, 13, 14, even 17, 18-year-old, because there's so much. I mean, like, there's so much more to go. And I love hearing stories like that, because everybody can just kind of be where they are in their own journey. And I like how you said it, Luke, like, I'm focused on the here and now and just what I have to do in front of me. Coach Joe, from your perspective, as you saw that ramp up happening maybe faster than most athletes, when did you, as this coach, start to think Paris is a real opportunity here? And then, Luke, I'll have the same question for you after. When were you like, Paris should be in my sights versus like a fantasy?
Yeah. So when Luke started with us, he was 500 free was probably his best event at that time. And he had just come off his freshman year of high school and was 442, I think, in the 500. Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere
right around 442. And so the winter junior cut, he wanted to try to get that cut in the mile. And as I was watching him train, and I knew kind of the capacity from the past, I kind of talked him into let's maybe focus on 1,000, because at that time I didn't feel like we had enough time in such a short window to get ready for winter juniors. You know, it's August and you're getting ready for winter juniors and you still got to get the cut. And so we made the 1,000 the goal. And I think, as I recall, in that race, he got 2 lifetime best 500s from the first 500 to the second 500, and within the same race. And so, at that moment, based upon the training that we had done, I wasn't sure he was ready to do it. But then I think there's this other element to Luke that always kind of comes out, and that is being able to perform, and being able to perform when it matters most. And that's actually kind of become a little bit of a theme for us over really the last couple of years. So, but we, at the World Championship trials, that would have been in 2023, we made a very specific goal, set a very specific goal, and that was to make that World Junior team. And felt like that was a really defining moment. We swam the mile, and he ended up being the third fastest 18 and under. So we kind of missed out, and we thought maybe that was perhaps his best chance. And so we had to regroup a little bit, and he came back and swam just a phenomenal 400 free, a little unexpected, a big time drop. And then he finished off the meet with the 800 and went 800, as best as 809. And so he qualified for that World Junior team and that trip that went to Israel last fall. So that was really, I think, kind of the first moment. But to be totally transparent, there's an absolute defining moment when I thought he had a chance to make it to Paris. Because we didn't really talk about it a lot. We talked about making junior pan packs and going there and having a huge impact. And then, maybe an outside chance at making, the Olympic Games from the trials. So, but I think it was like a month out. We were doing test sets and preparation for, like a prelim of the mile or 800. And then the next day having to come back and swim the final, because that's pretty unique to this age group. These kids haven't done that a lot. And actually Luke had never done that back-to-back days. And so we set up test sets. So we were here on a Saturday PM. I think we started like at 7:30, did warm up, and then trying to simulate the time frame that he would be swimming at trials for finals. So we went 5 300s on a 3:45 interval from a push. He's suited, and the objective was to try to go somewhere around 3 minutes and see if we could break 3 minutes or even try to hold a little under. And he went like 2:58 high on the first one. Thought, okay, maybe he overswam a little bit, went 2:58 low, and then went like 2:57 mid, and then 2:57.2. And of course, at that point, I'm getting pretty jacked as well. And I could tell he was, just kind of licking his chops, so to speak. He was ready to go. And so he kind of lit up that last one, went 2:55.9.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, that was really good. And that was really defining. I actually called, our associate head coach, Alec Haley, who also works with Luke, and it called him. And I think I was holding the phone, and the phone was shaking because I was like, it was so impressive. At that moment, I thought, yeah, he's legitimately got a shot to make this team.
That's amazing. That's a really cool story. Luke, was it the same thing for you that put you in that mindset of like, I'm doing this, or was it before that, or even just a different time?
Yeah, I think I hadn't really thought about it at all until World Juniors last year. But I went like 8:00 at nationals, like at the end of June. And that was I dropped 9 seconds. Like that was a really good swim for me, and I was really happy with it. And so like my goal for World Juniors was maybe like drop another 2 seconds and go like 7:58. But I dropped almost 6 seconds and went 7:55. And so after that, I was like, okay, like I just dropped 6 seconds in a couple months. And I knew that year it took 7:48 to get the second spot. So I was like, well, now I just have to drop another 7 seconds, and I have almost a year to do it. So after that, then I was like, all right, that's my goal. And so I basically thought about it like every day from when I started training in like October till trials. And so, but I do think that test set for sure, like I was thinking like maybe I could hold like if I held under 3 minutes, like that would be good for me. And I was like, all right, when I did that set, I was like, wow. And now I think about it, and it doesn't seem as crazy to me now, because now that I've like made the team, and I've had some other good practices too since then. So I guess I'm like hungry to keep training faster. And so now I don't think of it as crazy, but I know at the time, like even I was like shocked that I went that fast on that set.
That's cool. So it sounds like you were pretty hungry for this for at least the last year. And then that was like a defining moment too, where you're like, this thing we're a month out, and like I've been putting in the work to give myself a legitimate shot to make this team. And I want to hear from your guys, both of your perspective, favorite part of training, favorite set that you've done, some of the just a little bit of in this past year specifically, where we went from World Juniors to the Olympics. Kind of, did the training change a lot from your perspective, Coach Joe? Was there a big step up, or was it like kind of similar to the progression you had always been on, and he just kept crushing it more and more and more?
Yeah, I think the weekly schedule, that the type of format and the type of workouts we were doing were we didn't really change any of that through the entire process. But Luke came to me, and this is where I think I did this little thing for Swimming World, and I reference in there that you kind of build no doubt a relationship as a coach and an athlete, and at some point you've got to be able to trust the athlete in the process as well. And so he came to me, after that experience at World Juniors, and wanted to start upping some of his volume. Felt he was ready for some of that, and and some of the intensity. So we started taking some of those steps. And then, one story, we were getting ready to head into December, and he came to me and he said, "Hey, University of Florida is going to do like 100K week, and I'd kind of like to maybe try that." And I was totally opposed to it, which he knows. And because I was concerned about, perhaps what could happen, some of the negative components. And so it ended up that, he finally broke me down, and I was like, okay, we'll give it a try, but we're going pretty low intensity and see if we can make it to the end of the week. And so we got the 100K in, and then we were going to go down to the Tier Pro meet down in Knoxville, and then he got sick. And I was like, yep, told you so. But it was defining because it just kept expanding him. And then after that, we kind of upped our volume a little bit. And then because of the national junior team camp, and then additional days that we spent out in Colorado Springs at altitude, I think you had a total of 6 weeks at altitude post Christmas break. And so all of that, everything just kept elevating. And as we felt he could handle and manage more, we just kept pushing, to the last practice.
Can you talk about the coach-athlete relationship? And it sounds like you guys did a great job of communicating, and Coach Joe, just receiving feedback from Luke too, and even being willing to try. And Luke, I love that you wanted to try that. You're like, this hard work that's happening, how can I get in? It's pretty cool that you have that mindset. But then Joe being willing and open to trying those things. I think sometimes a lot of coaches are like, it's, this is what I had planned and this is what we're going to do. Doesn't really matter, what's going on with the athletes, because, I got a whole team to coach type of thing. So but you do a really phenomenal job of making adjustments for people and really taking into account what's going on with all of your athletes. And I'm just wondering, how, what is the expectation like for you at Fishers? And then Luke, I want to hear from you too, being the athlete, in terms of just that coach-athlete feedback, how much you take into account versus how much you stick to your plan. Because I know a lot of coaches struggle with that, and it sounds like you guys just had a really great understanding and relationship there.
Yeah, I think for me, I think this is pretty simple. It's about managing people, right? We have to kind of manage ourselves every day. But when you're in the position that I'm in, then, as a head coach, you're managing a lot of people. You're managing athletes, you're managing coaches, you're managing parents, administration, the guy that takes care of the pool. You're just helping manage people. And I think the focal point is on, what is our goal? What is our objective here? What is it we want to achieve? And then I think that drives how you manage people. And for Luke specifically, Luke knows this. I'm not going to say anything he doesn't know here, but Luke had this fire in him. And when he says that, there's times he wanted to accomplish more, do more, etc., he would sometimes outwardly have this display of passion that sometimes wasn't always the most positive. And if he was upset with a swim or whatever, and it could have been a lifetime best, but he wanted more, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that was pretty defining in this entire process, and trying to help take something that was potentially his greatest strength, that drive and passion, but managing it in such a way that it was productive and not negative. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was a real key to him being able to take the steps that he did in his training and certainly in his racing. And so I think probably 90+% he's got that under control, and has grown a lot in that. But I do think that it's an assessment of a situation. It's an assessment of an individual, and then understanding, what's it going to take to get them to where they want to go. And, and then it's managing the behaviors, right? And it's like, you can tell me you want to go to the Olympic Games and you want to go 7:45, but if I'm watching you in training and you're training like you're going to go 8:45, then we got to figure this out, because you're not going to get there. And so there's a lot of, I think, guided discovery, guided learning that happens. And I feel like that's, kind of my part and my role in the process, and helping people be able to see that and understand that it is possible.
That's really cool. That is really good insight just for coaches out there, in terms of just being able to really know your athletes and understand what they need from a physical, mental, emotional standpoint to help them be the best they can be. We hope you're enjoying this week's podcast. We want to take a quick break to shout out our sponsors. Resistance bands are a must-have for dryland. Elite Athlete Power Band kits are designed to give you a cost-effective way to improve performance and reduce the risk of injury. These high-quality kits last longer and are versatile enough to provide total body workouts anywhere, anytime. The levels of resistance are ideal for progressing youth athletes without weight increases that are too large. Go to the link provided on the Swim Strong Dryland website, click on the Training tab, and search Equipment Suggestion Lists, and get your Elite Athlete resistance bands today. Attention all high school and club swimmers and divers. Are you ready to take your talents to the next level and dive into the collegiate scene? Look no further than ACC Recruiting, your premier destination for college swimming and diving recruitment education. At ACC Recruiting, we specialize in connecting student athletes with the perfect collegiate programs that match their skills and academic aspirations. Our experienced team will guide you through the recruitment process, providing personalized support every stroke of the way. Don't let your dreams sink. Visit ACC Recruiting today and make a splash in your future. Dive into success with ACC Recruiting, where champions are born. Visit our website now or call us at 314-518-8844. That's 314-518-8844. ACC Recruiting, your gateway to collegiate swimming and diving excellence. And then Luke, from your side, go ahead.
Here, can I say one more thing? I should have said this. I apologize, but I think too. Then there's this time frame along this kind of journey that you're on, that you've got to, like, when athletes start taking ownership, they start displaying the things that you've asked them to do. I think then is that time where you've got to put some trust in them, because I think maybe a good example of that, maybe a way to describe it, is that we as coaches, we're right up on the deck, right? You're at like winter or summer juniors. You're one step out from being in the water, if you can be there, right, as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And you're into it. But at Olympic trials, like, you're up on this platform.
Yep.
If you're that, like, he has no idea, he can't see me up there, right? And so I think, like, that was a really important part in the process, and trusting an athlete and them taking ownership and understanding that when they walk out there, it's them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
I'm not there as a coach. I'm there, but man, my part's done, right? It's all on them. And I think that's part of that management of people and helping them get to that point where they take the ownership. Because I have a lot of goals, but and I can attempt to impress those upon people, but at the end of the day, it's got to be the goal of that athlete and what they truly want.
Absolutely. And Luke, from your perspective, then, kind of that relationship, how was that for you in terms of just communication, feedback, things you learned in that process that really helped you?
Yeah, it's been great. I feel like it's really easy to talk, like, between us, and just we know each other really well, and so that's a good thing. And then I really love what I do, and so I'm very serious about it. And so like, sometimes, like, I'll definitely not happy all the time, and I'm very hard on myself, and so just got to learn how to, like, manage kind of my emotions sometimes, which I've gotten a lot better at. But yeah, I mean, I'm really hard on myself. Like, I don't like having bad practices, but I mean, everybody has them. And so that's something that I've gotten better at dealing with. And yeah, I just think the communication between us is just, it's really easy. Like, and we know each other really well. And it's kind of like I feel like we've planned for meets like a month out before. Like I remember we did for nationals last year and World Juniors, but when we planned like for trials for like a month out, I feel like it wasn't even hard to plan for. Like, we just knew kind of.
Yep.
I almost feel like we didn't even like really need to plan, because at this point we just know kind of what we're going to do. And so I think that's really good. And like, I'm able to like kind of have some input on it too. And I think, because like, I mean, he knows that I care. And so, and I'm not going to do everything I can to work hard. I'm not going to tell him to give me a set that's just so that I can go easy on it. Like, if I'm telling him to give me a set, it's going to be something that I want to do and do well. And so that's the same thing with the 100K week, which I really wanted to try. And yeah, I mean, I got sick after and I had to miss a meet, but I do think there were some positive things out of that. Just like, because I was doing a lot of those practices by myself that week too. So, I mean, I was doing like 8, 9, 10K practices like by myself, which can be hard. I mean,
yeah. So
I think, yeah, but the communication part is really good.
That mindset that you're talking about is different from, I mean, like there are people who have that, but it's rare, where you're just like, look, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it at a high level. Coach, you don't have to worry about me. I'm going to do whatever you give me. I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to do it at 100%. Where do you get that from? Have you had that like just innately? Is it like kind of wired into you from a young age? Like where does that mindset come from, you think?
Yeah, I don't know, because I wouldn't say that I had that same mindset when I played basketball. I definitely didn't. But I have always been really competitive, and like with anything that I do, even just like little things, like with my family or like with my brother. So like I've always been really competitive, and I think just when I keep improving and I keep like expanding my mind and just knowing that there's more to achieve, I think it's just always something like going through my head. And I know I'm not somebody that's like one of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody like sets a goal or like a hard goal and then they just don't work hard for it.
Yes.
So I think that's, I think that's something that I've just been really good at all the time, just being competitive and knowing that my goal isn't just going to happen without hard work. And so I've always kind of just valued that.
That's awesome. I mean, that is your pet peeve is one of my biggest. People say they want to do something and I'm like, wait, you said you wanted to do this and I'm here with you, but like what you're doing isn't lining up with what you said. And so it's great to hear that. Let's go now. So that we've talked about kind of your background and journey. We talked about coming to Fishers and your guys' relationship and a bit of the training and then the mindset behind all of it and when you thought it was possible. Well, now we're going to Olympic trials at Lucas Oil Stadium, which was the biggest swim meet in history. We broke the world record in attendance multiple days. When you got there, Luke, and we'll just fast forward to right behind the blocks at your main event, the 800 free. What are you thinking as you go into that race and you had crushed the 400 but the 800 was like your main event. What were you thinking behind the blocks? Were you there? What do you think when you race? Obviously, this is a bigger moment than some of the others, but where was your mind at right before you were about to race, and even take us a little bit through that race?
Yeah. The 400 was really good for me. I wasn't expecting to go that fast. And so, I mean, I was the top seed after prelims, but I really wasn't too stressed out because I knew that my goal was to make the team in either the 800 and 1500. So, I wasn't really too nervous for the 400 final. But after the 400, I knew, like, I mean, I was really confident. Like, I knew I was going to make the team in the 800, and I just I went into that race. I do think in the ready room for that, I was more nervous than I was for the 400. Like I would like think like in like 10 minutes, like I could be an Olympian, and stuff like that goes through your head, makes you nervous. But I think I'm good at channeling my nerves, and I just knew like I'd done everything to prepare. So I didn't have any worries, and I just went out there and raced. And it was one of those races that I just like, I don't remember anything from, like even my head spinning during the race, because I saw that I was ahead of like everybody else except Bobby, and I just kind of was like freaking out while I was swimming, and I was kind of just on autopilot. And I think I definitely went out a little fast. I was out way faster than I thought I would be out. So maybe I could have gone a little faster if I controlled it, but it doesn't matter. Like I still got the job done, and it was right on my goal time. So
that's cool. I remember sitting in the stands next to Julie and Emily watching you race distance, because I hadn't seen you. Well, I had seen you in person last winter, I guess, at the US Nationals. But you went out hot, and I was like, is this okay? Is this good? They're like, he's fine. He does this all the time in practice. Like, he'll just go faster. They're like, he doesn't even get tired. They're like, however fast he's going out, he's going to end up even faster. And I was like, all right, that's good. But that was just so thrilling to watch. And so it's interesting to hear your mindset going into the race and then in the race. And I mean, you have a pretty crazy last 50 kick that you just turn on the jets. And, you know, did that come from watching Bobby? That's something you guys specifically trained for? Is that something that's just kind of, I see more people doing that in the distance world, but I mean, you really, I mean, in that mile too, when you were like a couple seconds behind and everybody was like, okay, it's 1-2. It's obvious it's going to be Bobby and David. And then you gave the most absolutely insane rundown I've ever seen. You almost out-touched him even in the mile because you had so much left on that. Is that something that you had trained for, just a kick of adrenaline? Where does that come from?
Yeah, that's something that I kind of started doing this year because I was, well, like I had said, like I'd been thinking about trials, like, or making the team like all year. And I was like, I knew some of the guys had good last 50s. And so I was like, and I would say like I had a solid last 50, but it wasn't anything crazy. And so that was something that I started working on just at the end of sets and practice, sometimes just hammering the last rep, or mostly trying to do it with my legs. And I wouldn't say like that I increased my tempo that much, but it's more just like all out with the legs. But yeah, I think that's something that I've been working on mainly just this season, but I've definitely gotten better at it, and I definitely still want to get better at it. I could have gone a little faster and made the team in the mile, but yeah, it's something that I'll look to keep getting better at. And now that I'm going to be training with Bobby, I mean, I'll have to get better at it. So.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Well, okay, let's go to that moment. You touch the wall, you look up, 745. Obviously, second place and make the United States Olympic team. Probably didn't even, well, maybe you did realize based on the way you think you had just set a national age group record as well. First thought that goes through your head, and then Coach Joe, same question for you. First thought as soon as he touches the wall and you realize this is happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't like thinking, and I probably was, but like it all just went away. I was like, I'm not a big selly person, but I knew that I had to do that. So I slapped the water and I was happy. But yeah, I wouldn't even say that it sunk in really until this week. Like, because I just right after went back and started training again, getting ready for Paris. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that it sunk in like even for a month and a half after. And so now this last 2 weeks, I've been able to let it sink in a little more. But at the time, I don't even know what I was thinking. It's just kind of crazy to me. Like, it's something that obviously that was my goal, but when it actually happens, it just is kind of unreal. Even though like I know that I put the work in, it's still just like it's nice to see it pay off, but it's just crazy to think about.
Absolutely. Coach Joe, how about you? Right when he touched the wall, what was you and Coach Alex first initial thoughts and reaction?
Yeah, so just prior to that, I get a little insight, right? Because I'm warming him up and getting splits and tempos and all this type of stuff, right? So Alec had headed over to the platform and to kind of get a spot in amongst everybody that was there, and so we get him done warming up, and I head over, and Alex said, "Well, how was it?" I was like, "This is gonna be really impressive." And so, you just get that feel through the warm up, right? And you're seeing it all the time. So because of the race strategy, then that's how we kind of managed ourselves a little bit as coaches. We wanted to see where were we at the 400. He was about a second faster than we thought, but the art discussions, really great to have that relationship as coaches, to be able to stand there and kind of do a little play-by-play with each other, if you will. And we're like, all right, yeah, this is fine. He's in control. And then when we got into that third 200, we knew that was the make or break. And as he made it through that third 200, then I was telling Alec, I was like, all right, every 50 we can celebrate a little bit more here, because this is going to get the job done. And so when he touched, Alec and I mean, it's just, you're just kind of responding, right? Like, it's not something that you're controlling. You just kind of let it go. And so we celebrated. And then a few seconds after that, Greg Meehan was up on the upper part of the platform, the head coach at Stanford. And he said, "Hey, Joe, come look at this." So he had videoed us at the conclusion of the race. And of course, we both have like a 1/2-inch vertical jump. And so we were jumping up and down, hugging each other. It was pretty cool. It was a really cool kind of special moment that we could all celebrate. And on a side note, for coaches out there that would be listening, I thought that was awesome that Greg, did that. And he said back when he had kind of first started coaching, he had an athlete do something like that. Another coach had videoed him and shared that with him. And that's something that we've got on our phones now, and we can share. And I didn't know he was going to post it on Instagram, but but yeah, it was fun. It was awesome. Cool. And it's just great when a plan, whether it's a race or a season or whatever it is, you go through the process all the time, but to get to experience the positive outcome, that's the best part.
That's so cool. Yeah, those moments, it's important to, I know, Luke, you said this is something that in your mindset, like you always want more, and that you've had to try to enjoy the moments as they come too. But being able to embrace the moments that you've been working for and enjoy it, I think is super important. But then you were always, you talked about always looking for more and for that next thing that you're focused on. And I remember after you had qualified in the 800, walking over to congratulate you and Coach Joe and Coach Alec. And I was like, "Where's he at?" And they're like, "Oh, he's in the pool." And you came to the wall and you weren't even talking about it. You were like talking about your 1500 that you had coming up in a couple of days. And it was like you hadn't even qualified for the team. I was like, this guy is so locked in and has such a different mindset that you can go through one of the highest emotional experiences like in most people's lives, making the U.S. Olympic team, which people work, their whole lives for. And a handful of minutes later, you're in the warm down pool focusing on the next thing because you still had a job to do. And all I thought about was Kobe Bryant. Job's not finished. Still got more to go. That's different. I think and if people did this, perfectly fine. But I know some people would qualify and then the rest of their Olympic trials may not have been as great because they were partying and so excited about what they had done, and rightfully so. But it just speaks to the mentality. And I think that's such a great thing to have. Like, don't let yourself get too high or too low for too long. Like, enjoy the moments when you're there, but don't stay there, right? You can't stay there. And so I think that's a really unique skill set, and keep fighting for that. But I just want to finish up here with your experience in Paris. Obviously, that's something that you just returned from, and that was kind of the end goal that you had been focusing on this quad, so to speak, this cycle. But can you talk about just favorite moments from Paris for you, Luke and Joe? Just want to hear from your guys' perspective. What was the best part of the experience for you, just as a whole, now that you've had a little bit of time to process it and look back on that experience?
Yeah, I'd say really just all the training in the training camps. That was fun. Getting to train with Bobby and Katie and David. And obviously I'll be training with Bobby and Katie for the next years and with Coach Nesty. And I think just the whole trip was fun. But like in one like particular moment, probably just watching Bobby's 1500 on the last day. I mean, that was the only individual gold medal for the U.S. guys. And so and it was on the last day, last individual event. And it was a world record. So, and I think it's really cool for me to watch that, knowing that I got to train with him for the last month and that I'll be training with him now. And it makes me hungry to get better as well and want to reach that level one day too, and just learn from him. And I think that's, I immediately afterwards, like, that's just kind of how my mindset is. I was like, yeah, like that's where I want to be one day. Like I want to try to get there. And so just work as hard as I can. And I think that the whole experience, like it was good. I mean, obviously I didn't swim the way I wanted to. But I think there's just, it was a little bit out of my control, but it's still like keeps me very motivated. I kind of had to, like, after my swim, like obviously I wasn't feeling good, but I had to kind of force myself to take a break because I wasn't happy with it. And I just wanted to get back in the pool and just train and get like, I was just motivated, just especially watching like the final of the 800 and seeing all those guys in there. Like I want to be in there so bad. And so I was like, I wanted to get back in the next day, and Coach Nesty asked me like if I was going to keep swimming like through the rest of the week. And at that point I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. Then I got tested positive for COVID. And so then I was quarantined. So then I kind of just started my break because I had no other option. And I was like, all right, tried to get healthy. So, and that only lasted like, cause I had symptoms like a lot prior. And so I only was quarantined for like 2 days. So that really didn't ruin too much of the experience for me. And I was able to get back and watch the end of the meet. So it was just one small hiccup, but I was gone for over a month. So the whole experience was really great.
That's cool. Of course, your answer would be the training. I should have known that. Your training and then something else that somebody else accomplished inspired you, which is really cool and speaks to how you'll be as a teammate at UF and just the mindset you have. And thinking that you went 749, was it, I believe, at the Olympics with COVID. That's kind of insane. So, but obviously just being there is incredible. But hearing the mindset of obviously just wanting be the best you can be every time you jump in is awesome. But yeah, that's a pretty impressive feat as well. But Coach Joe, how about your highlights? Because obviously you not obviously for everybody watching, he was out there as well in Paris. And so what was your favorite moment or just looking back, favorite memory of the Olympics?
Yeah, I've got two, and that is I had the opportunity to go to the domestic camp, so I spent the week there. And that was pretty awesome. And at one point, I think it was maybe the second day we were there, maybe Tuesday, in the afternoon, they were getting ready to do a set, and Coach Nesty was going to be working with Emma Wyatt, and Coach Whitney was going to be working with Karen Smith. And so he said, hey, would you mind, taking this group? And I was like, okay, that group's got Luke. I'm cool with that. It's got Bobby Fink and it's got Katie Ledecky. And I was like, all right. So they got started. I moseyed over to Coach Nessie and I said, hey, Coach, what would you like for me to say to Katie? You know, I mean, this is like the GOAT, right? And so it was humbling. It was awesome. And, you know, man, for every athlete out there, if you can emulate, you know, Katie Ledecky and her work ethic, but also her gratitude, it's off the chart. Unbelievable. You know, she's getting out telling me thank you, and I really didn't do anything from my perspective. It's just really impressive. But so that was moment number one. Moment number two was sitting down in our seats in the upper deck and to watch you know, the Olympic Games that Monday morning. And Luke comes walking out, and I'm like, I'm gonna be totally transparent. It was really kind of a nice feeling because I wasn't stressed at all. Like, it was like, wow, I could sit back and just be a spectator, and this is okay. So yeah, so I got to enjoy it and just watching him race, and it was just a different perspective and felt kind of weird, but it was pretty cool at the same time. And just, you know, a lot of gratitude and just feeling really blessed to be able to be there. So it was pretty awesome.
Thanks for sharing that with everybody, guys. That's incredible. And you guys have been extremely generous with your time already. So I'm going to wrap it up here with one final question. And very curious to hear what each of you would say about this. But Luke, for you, if you could say anything to young athletes watching as to what it takes to get to where you are, or maybe even something you would say to your younger self, like that you wish you would have known back when you were in middle school or early in high school, now that you're like, man, looking back, this would be the piece of advice I would give myself or somebody who's aspiring to be me, because there are millions of kids, I'm sure, who are aspiring to be like you now. And Joe, from your perspective as well, just for coaches out there, like, who would want to see similar things happen, like, just what piece of advice would you give to each of your younger selves or someone aspiring to be like you? And we'll start with Luke.
Yeah, definitely just work hard. But at the same time, I feel like if you have to be like on top of your game, I guess, and know what you want and work hard to achieve that. But I think something I would like tell myself, like when I was younger, is like, I think I would overthink things, like wondering like if I was working hard enough. But I think if you're asking yourself that question a lot of it, and you have those goals a lot of the time, then you are, I feel like, working hard enough. If you really care about it that much to even like stress about that. And so I think I would tell myself to not stress as much when I was younger. But then that goes different ways. Like some people, maybe, I think, like, you need to care more, I guess, if they have that as a goal. Some people, like myself, like, I think I just overthink things sometimes, not as much anymore. But when I was younger, for sure. And so, yeah, I think if you know that you're doing the right work, and do like working hard, doing it the right way, and you have those goals, then I think it's really pretty simple. And you just kind of got to take care of yourself outside of the pool, and work hard in the pool and have the right mindset, and just try to be positive and believe in yourself that you can reach that goal and not try to overthink too much.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Luke. And Coach Joe, how about for you?
Yeah, you just stole my line. He mentioned believing, right? And I think that for coaches, I think that at some point in time, we kind of personally kind of evolve into, you know, maybe a level of maturity, just like an athlete does, right? Even though we're adults, you still are maturing as a coach, I think, through the process. And I think, you know, we as coaches still have the same kind of thoughts that athletes do, right? Like, are we doing the right thing, and so on and so forth. But it's kind of twisted because you've got this other person or this other group of people that you don't ultimately have all the control, right? And so I think, for coaches, I think you do everything that you can. And then I think it's, putting trust, in the athlete or the athletes. And then ultimately, you just have to believe. And as I tell our athletes, there's days I see them maybe 6 hours a day, and there's 18 hours. They're determining what type of athlete they want to be, and I think that's just really, really kind of critical to be able to get to that point where you can ultimately have trust and belief in the athlete and or the team. And I think it's empowering to them when you can get to that point as a coach.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, both of you, I appreciate your time so much. I know many people are inspired by you, and this will be very impactful. And so, Luke, wish you the best in your continued journey as you head to UF. I know there's amazing things coming. I know you have a hunger coming off the Olympic Games that you talked about that is not going to be quenched. So I'm excited to see what you do in the next few years and leading up to 2028. Just super impressive person, and thanks for all that you do. And Coach Joe, excited to work with you on a deeper level too as we continue to work with Fishers and Swim Strong, and just such an amazing person, coach, mentor that I'm excited to learn more from as well. But thank you both for your time, and this was amazing.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch a new episode each Monday. You can also check us out on social media at SwimStrong Dryland. If you would like to join the SwimStrong family, visit our website at swimstrongdryland.com.